Every X-Men needs a Nightcrawler, and her X-Men had two. In this video, we're going to be looking at Talia Josephine Wagner, aka Nocturne. Hi, I'm Nando. In these videos, I take a character from Marvel Comics, talk about their history, their power set, their personality, give you some reading recommendations, and each character is picked specifically because they are appearing that week in the collectible card game Marvel Snap. So if you like Marvel Snap, this will be fun. We'll talk about the character in that lens, but also if you just want to learn about Nocturne, that's the first two-thirds of the video. So Talia Josephine is from Earth 2182. It's an Earth where a lot of different things happen to the X-Men to kind of set a couple of her story elements in motion. We meet her first in a book called Millennial Visions. So as far as I can tell, the part of Marvel's Millennial Visions that she's from was created by Jim Calafiore and Peter Palmiotti. If there's people I'm forgetting on that, it's just because that book is one of those books where it's like, here's a picture of some guys, and here's a small description of them, and I cannot figure out exactly where all of that information about her comes from. Most of her history and pretty much everything we're going to learn about this character comes from the Exiles books that she's in, but this is technically where she was first shown. And basically here, she's just Nightcrawler, but a woman. And there's a different kind of team she's on. It's very complicated what the story behind them is. But basically, under the mind control of the Shadow King, Wolverine killed Professor X, and that caused a big schism between the X-Men, where Scott and a bunch of the other ones went to be bad guys, and that was their whole thing now. They just hate Wolverine so much for what he did, because Scott's just kind of, I don't know, he's kind of lost it. And the characters who stuck around were Wolverine, who had lost some ability to move. I don't know exactly how that happens with a Wolverine, but he did. Moira McTaggart, and then Kurt, Kitty Pryde. The Phoenix inhabited the body of Colossus, but this was essentially the Phoenix. And then Kurt and the Scarlet Witch, who was an Avenger at the time, had a kid, and that was Talia Josephine. Everybody calls her TJ. Well, you're not calling her Nocturne, so I'm going to probably just say TJ from now on. But they had a daughter named Nocturne, and she was also an X-Men. Now, this is a school led by Wolverine, so it's Professor W, but there are tons of kids on this campus, like it's a full school. And TJ is like one of the more senior members of the team. She wears like a Nightcrawler costume. She's basically just Nightcrawler. I mean, she has other powers, which we'll get to, but I would say like her vibe is she's teenage rebellious Nightcrawler, where her father has become this field general of the X-Men. He's the seasoned leader, especially after their Shadowcat gets turned back into child Shadowcat through time travel or something, so like that's not great. But basically, like Wolverine and Nightcrawler are the two like original X-Men who are currently leading this team, with Moira, who was around for, you know, all the original stuff as well. But like they're the adults, and TJ is a rebellious teenager. We learn most of this, and I believe Exiles 41 and 42, which are just the Nocturne origin story, where like they had an Apocalypse who fought another Apocalypse named Genesis, I believe. It was a pretty cool looking, like every so often they'll throw in a design out there that's like, it's Apocalypse, but like a little different. I really like this one. I thought this one was cool, but like she got mad because she thought her dad was like micromanaging her, and she's just trying to have fun. And then the expansion gets attacked by Cyclops and all his guys, and she's like, oh man, I shouldn't have been so mean to my dad. That's like, that's her origin. But like, so that's all happening. Big assault on the X-Mansion. It's a Tuesday. That happens all the time. But TJ is one of 6 original characters that gets unstuck from time by the Time Broker, a character we talked about a little bit in the Blink video, but basically a character who appears to be just some guy with lots and lots of power who takes 6 different characters from the multiverse, gives them tasks they have to do, and, you know, especially with this group, if they complete those tasks, whatever number, it's kind of predetermined, but you don't know how many more you have left. But at a certain point, you get to leave and go back to your life, and if you don't do it, everybody you know will suffer or something like that. So TJ is actually the first character, I believe, to show up here, and this is not exclusively mutants. At least originally it is, but it's not always going to all be mutants. But like, so she is the first Exile. She is with Blink. I would say her and Blink are the 2 characters most associated with this. I'm gonna say not Morph, because Morph as Changeling existed outside of the Exiles, whereas Blink was like the main Exiles member, and Nocturne almost exclusively is an Exiles character. Now she does eventually do other stuff, and she ends up in the 616 universe and hangs out there and, you know, infiltrates the Brotherhood, which is great. But I'd say like she's a character you mostly know from Exile stuff, whereas like Morph, it's like maybe you know him from the show, maybe you know him from other comics that are in. Yeah, Nocturne's got a very narrow focus, but I mean, you know, She's Nightcrawler's daughter, so she's also kind of furry, I would imagine. And she has long hair. She also has a tail. One thing about TJ that I think is weird, her tail can retract. Nightcrawler's can't, obviously, but like for some reason hers can. I would say vibe-wise on the team, she's pretty chill. You know, she's kind of, I wouldn't say she's like happy-go-lucky, the same way that some of these characters are. Like Morph is like the quippy jokester on this team, right? And Blink is like a cool, reasonable, you know, leader. She's in the middle somewhere, agreeable, a good friend to everybody on the team. Gets in a romantic relationship with Thunderbird, that version's Thunderbird, who goes into a coma, so that relationship kind of fizzles out, although he does come back eventually. But yeah, she has a lot of adventures. She fits in well in the group. I don't know. She feels more than Blink like a kid from the 2000s, in the same way that like kind of Britney Spears, not like she's Britney Spears, but like she feels like a kid in like 10 Things I Hate About You or something like that, like from that era. Buffy is the other cultural touchstone there, I guess. But she's, you know, she's cool. Eventually, she leaves the Exiles because the little machine tells her she has to go. And she goes and lives with the X-Men for a while, kind of taking over for Beak, who is the character that gets recruited in her place. She is like, all right, well, while you're out, I'll, I guess, raise your kids or whatever. She joins the X-Men because during some missions, she does bump into Nightcrawler from that universe, like from the 616 universe. She's like, hey, you're Nightcrawler. And he's like, yeah, you know, I get it. Something's up. You're like my secret daughter or something. Cool. Like, nice. We'll get along well. However, like I said, when she comes to the 616 universe, the first thing she does after her Exiles term is up is she joins Exodus's Brotherhood, but it turns out she's secretly spying on the Brotherhood because she's a good guy. They have like a little Departed thing going on where like her and Juggernaut are both secretly spying for the good guys. So, you know, that's fun. Nocturne hasn't really been in every story. Yeah, I'd say out of all the characters being introduced this season, she's probably had the smallest impact. But that being said, you know, it just benefits from having a really memorable design, and that Nightcrawler has a really memorable design, and she has a cool name. Nocturne's a super cool name. And we would learn in all the other Exiles books, she's still doing Exile stuff. Her and the original team are kind of managing the Panopticon, but, you know, so she sees that as her responsibility. She's still good friends with Blink and Mimic, and like I said, I think she was in a relationship with Thunderbird for a while, although I'm not sure if that's still happening. Okay, so powers. Nightcrawler powers. First of all, she can see in the dark really well, I think, and I definitely know she's nearly invisible in the dark. Like it's really hard to see her. She can cling to surfaces like walls, but she's also the daughter of the Scarlet Witch, so she also has some Scarlet Witch powers. The main one being she can possess people. So Nocturne can like throw her consciousness into your body. It knocks you out when you leave, so it's kind of like part of the power is that she can, you know, control your body for a while, but then there's this extra little power that like she could just knock you out for a day, put you in like a little coma. So if you're fighting somebody that's like a real problem, that's a good way to get them off the battlefield for a little bit. And she can only possess one person apparently in a 24-hour period. So the possession, I would say you have to imagine, comes from Scarlet Witch. She gets a couple of other powers that are more explicitly Scarlet Witchy. She can read minds a little bit, and she can fire hex bolts, which are just what Scarlet Witch fires. I wouldn't say like Nocturne is great at magic. She's good at the possession thing, but that feels like more of a mutant power, whereas all the rest of this stuff feels like that kind of like, if you're a mutant, having a little bit of telepathy is great, but like if you bump into a real telepath, it's like not even on the same level. You can, you know, you can like read somebody's mind, but you can't do the kind of things like Jean Grey or Emma Frost can do. Other things, she joined New Excalibur, which is fun because Nightcrawler was a member of the original Excalibur. Her team members there, Sage, who we'll get to next week, the Juggernaut, Captain Britain, Pete Wisdom, and Dazzler. It's a fun team. I've never read this book. There's way more of it than I expected, but from what I understand, spoilers for this book, she goes into a coma in like halfway through it or something. Didn't even know it existed. So maybe I'll give it a look. But yeah, no, I think Nocturne is fun. I don't know. Nocturne's cool. Again, there's not a whole lot going on with her. She's never been in a movie. As far as I understand, never been in a show, probably. It'd be interesting if they threw her in one, but like she's so new. In Marvel Snap, Nocturne is a 3-cost, 5 power with a card text. You can move this once. When this moves, replace its location with a random new one. So I think you can kind of see where we're going with this, where they got this from. She is a fusion of Nightcrawler's ability, move, and Scarlet Witch's ability, change locations, which I think is great. Also, it's like the way the Exiles will just go to different realities and stuff. She is kind of like changing the battlefield, changing the reality. So I think that's great. As far as cards she works well with, I mean, I've seen her in a lot of decks with Blink recently. I would say like team members, you know, she's okay with Morph. She's a 3 cost, so you've got the Silver Surfer thing going there. Okay with Thunderbird. Pretty good with Juggernaut, you know, as far as moving characters around, moving yourself around. It's a good cohesion. Sage, that's going to be useful, having different characters on different, like, I wouldn't say she's like a bounce deck necessarily character. I think that's what's so good about her is movement and changing locations are great, and 3/5 stat line is good. Yeah, I think this Nocturne is a really simple, really well executed Marvel Snap card. I wish there was more than one variant because the Spotlight Cash, the Alberto Del Lago one is great, but it is the only one. So reading recommendations for Nocturne, very simple. Again, like with Blink, read the Exiles, but if you want specifically to learn more about Nocturne's backstory, 2 issues are just the Nocturne issues. So yeah, Exiles 41 and 42 are a Nocturne's Tale. It's 2-part, gives you her backstory, everything leading up to her joining the Exiles. A couple details that are interesting. First of all, the braids that she has, like that is something that she gets right before she goes and does Exile stuff. So it's a new hairstyle she's rocking that day. Other interesting thing, she is in a band. She's a singer. The band is called the Butt Monkeys. It never comes up again, but you know, or maybe it did. I don't know. Her and Dazzler could have been in a band in New Excalibur. Again, I haven't read it, but it seems fun. But yeah, I would say those are the main 2 reading recommendations. She doesn't really show up in the second Exile series, the one from the 2010s. I believe she's like a regular player on the very recent Exile series, but like that first run of the Exiles is what you would know her from, and all you need to read to get up to speed on Nocturne. So yeah, next week we got a good one. We got Sage, baby. We're talking Tessa. I cannot wait. So until then, you know, enjoy these videos, like them, share them, watch them again, subscribe. And if you play Marvel Snap and stuff, you know, you see me out there, let me know. I usually go by that Nando, just because there were a lot of other Nandos popping around. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys around.